So I will start now my second lecture in this group of lecture on French astrology and especially on my work. So how do we combine Gauquelin's astrology with my astrology? I would say that there are two faces of the astrological monument. One facet is connected with a certain necessity for society to be organized according to a certain number of activities, which is typically, I would say, mechanical, and typically, excuse me because I have certain expressions about women which might be a little shocking, typically feminine. The idea that a man has to be oriented, has to choose his activity, has to stick to this activity. This is one aspect of mankind. Not the most important, not the most interesting, but a necessary aspect, probably. This is an astrology, especially for women, according to me, because women have to know where they belong, to which part they are connected, to which activity, to which profession they are connected. And there is an astrology for men on the other side, which I've discovered. I remind you that Gauquelin was, of course, Michel Gauquelin was married to Françoise Schneider-Gauquelin, who was also working in the same field together. And my astrology is especially for men. Well, you say, well, it is for men, but on the other hand, I said it is the women who are the vector of this astrology. They are the women who connect men to the stars. Yes. Well, in a way, what I've just said is not exactly what I think today. Sometimes, you have some records of those you had in the past, and they reappear while you have changed your mind about this. So, what I want to say more precisely is that this cyclic astrology, which is called astrocycling, has a major impact about men. But it is also a feminine astrology. But the reason of this astrology is to introduce some sort of challenge about men. Challenge, karmic challenge, if you want. Some obstacle, some temptation. I like the word temptation to describe what the cycles are about. So, women do play a major role in all this. But I believe that the astrocycling doesn't represent an ideal in itself. Astrocycling represents cycles of 7 years, because we divide the cycle of Saturn in 4 parts of 7 years, parallel with what we have for the moon, the months being divided in 4 parts of 7 weeks, for 7 days, which gives 4 weeks. So here also we have weeks of 7 years as well. So I'm not sure that this cycle is something ideal to be followed. it is something which exists. It is in, like when you are forecasting weather. It is something important to know, but you don't have to live necessarily according to it. You can forget the weather, and you can forget the cycles. You can try to protect yourself against it. I really believe that this mankind, male humankind, male humanity, is not necessarily to be divided into different professions, and is not either necessarily divided in several periods, in several phases, in several times. All those divisions are, for me, something suspicious, something problematic. So, I really think that a man is not limited by time or space, is not limited by having certain profession, is not limited by having to follow a certain cycle and change according to a certain number of sections of time, of phases of time. I don't believe that. I'm of Jewish extraction, and I have written a book a long time ago, 30 years ago nearly, in fact more than that, because my thesis was in 79. The Jewish word and astrology, that was the title, the final title of my work. And among Jews, we believe that the stars, the astrology, does exist, but it has not to impose its rules. They say that it is possible to neutralize, to avoid those rules. And they say that astrology is something, in a way, foreign to mankind. Zara, Avodah Zara, which you can understand differently, but in fact Zar means foreign. So is it foreign to Judaism? Is it foreign to mankind? Well, anyway. So the word of man is, of course, influenced, affected by what happens with women, how they keep the contact with the stars, how they feel certain things about this planetary structure of the psychology of the people, which means they will be more dedicated to sport or to justice or to writing, anyway, whatever. So it's very interesting to describe the cycles, to say what it means when it starts, when it stops, when we pass from one period to another period. That's very important, sure. But it is not necessarily an ideal. And in that, I think I differ from Dane Rudyard, who believed that the chart was really the representation of the soul, the ideal of the person that he has to follow to escape from the influences, alienating influences of society. So, no, for me, the cycles are not to be followed, but they have to be, we have to be conscious of them very, very clearly. And we know exactly what they bring to us. We know exactly what the temptation they are creating for us, through women, actually. And in that sense, we are connected. We have some sort of commentary of the Genesis. Women being the temptator, of the past and of the future. which is the main teaching of what I say. When the planet Saturn approaches one of the four royal stars, which are in the four different directions, which affords to divide the cycle of Saturn in four more or less equal parts. So when Saturn approaches one of the four stars every 7 years, he creates a sort of reduction of time and space. What was old and ancient and forgotten comes back. What was far and distant is now much nearer. So the world becomes smaller, and it becomes difficult because a lot of things of our lives are concentrated. There's a sort of return of all sort of things which were in our memory in the past are certainly present. And on the other hand, there are a second part of the 7-year cycle, which says exactly the contrary, which says, let us consider the future. Let us imagine a new future, a new world, a new utopia. Let us not return to the past. Let us go forward to a new horizon, a new era, a new age, a new horizon. This is another temptation, sort of far west, illimited horizon, illimited prospects. This is the opposite temptation. So that's what I wanted to tell you for this second lecture.